Jake, a devoted husband, walks into his Chicago loft expecting a cozy weekend with his wife, Emma. Instead, she drops a bombshell. She wants a weekend fling with another man. Shattered, but not broken, Jake decides to take back his life in a way she'll never forget. What happens when betrayal meets a calculated comeback? Watch to see how Jake turns the tables in this gripping tale of trust, revenge, and redemption. Jake Thompson, 32, pushed through the glass doors of his Chicago architecture firm, his shoulders heavy from a week of endless deadlines. It was Friday evening, and the city buzzed with weekend energy. Honking cabs, glowing streetlights, the hum of bars spilling on his sidewalks. All he wanted was a quiet night with Emma, his wife of 5 years, maybe takeout and a movie on their loft's worn couch. He'd even planned to surprise her with tickets to a jazz show tomorrow, a nod to their early dating days. As he rode the L train home, his phone buzzed with a text from Emma. "We need to talk tonight. No emojis, no worms." His stomach tightened, but he brushed it off. Probably another work complaint. She'd been distant lately, buried in her graphic design projects. He climbed the stairs to their fourth-floor loft in Wicker Park, the faint scent of paint and coffee lingering in the hall. The door clicked open, and there was Emma, perched on a stool at the kitchen island, a half-empty glass of Merlot in her hand. Her posture was rigid, like she was about to pitch a client. "No es mal, no greeting." Jake dropped his keys on the counter, forcing a grin. "Rough day?" he asked, hoping to lighten the mood. She didn't look up. "Sit down, Jake," she said, her voice sharp, deliberate. He froze, then sank into a chair, the air suddenly thick. "I'm spending the weekend with someone else," Emma said, her words slicing through the silence. "Just a weekend. I need to feel something different." Jake's breath caught. His mind scrambled for a punchline, a misunderstanding, anything but this. "What are you talking about?" He managed, his voice low, almost a growl. She sipped her wine, unfazed, as if she'd rehearsed this. "It's not about us. I just don't want regrets, you know? Not living fully. I'll be back Sunday, and we'll go on like before." Her eyes met his, not with guilt, but with a calm defiance that hit harder than any shout. Jake's chest burned. 5 years of shared mornings, late-night talks, and promises, reduced to a casual request for a hall pass. "You're serious," he said, not a question. She nodded, standing to pour more wine. "It's just an experience, Jake. It doesn't change what we have." His hands clenched, knuckles whitening. He wanted to yell, to demand answers, but her nonchalance paralyzed him. She was already moving, grabbing her phone, texting someone. "I'm leaving in an hour," she added, as if discussing a grocery run. The casual betrayal stung worse than the words themselves. He stayed silent as she packed a small duffel bag, her movement efficient, practiced. Each zip of the bag felt like a nail in their marriage. "You don't have to wait up," she said, slinging the bag over her shoulder. The door shut behind her, leaving Jake alone in the loft's suffocating quiet. He didn't move for a long time, her words looping in his head. Just a weekend. Like before, but there was no going back. Something inside him snapped, not into despair, but into resolve. If Emma thought she could walk out and waltz back in, she was about to learn how wrong she was. He grabbed his phone, fingers trembling, and called a locksmith. "Can you change all the locks tonight?" "Front door, back, everything," he said, his voice steady despite the chaos in his chest. The locksmith promised to be there in 2 hours. Next, he dialed a moving company, one he'd used for a client's office relocation. "I need everything belonging to my wife packed and moved to storage by tomorrow," he instructed, giving the address of a nearby facility. No hesitation, no second-guessing. Emma's clothes, books, even her art supplies. Everything would be gone by the time she returned. With the calls done, Jake paced the loft, adrenaline surging. He wasn't the type to sit and wallow. At the youth center where he volunteered, he taught kids to face challenges head-on, and now he'd take his own advice. His phone buzzed, a confirmation from movers. Good, but he needed something else, a way to reclaim the night. On impulse, he downloaded a dating app, one he'd never touched before. He wasn't looking for love, just a spark to remind him he wasn't invisible. Within minutes, a message popped up from Mia, a 30-year-old photographer with a sharp wit. "Coffee tonight? I'm in a mood for a story, and you look like you've got one." Her profile picture showed her mid-laugh, camera in hand, exuding a confidence Jake craved. He hesitated, then typed back, 9 p.m., the wormhole. I'll be the guy who needs a strong drink. Mia replied instantly, deal. I like a man who knows what he wants. Jake exhaled, a faint smile breaking through. This wasn't about replacing Emma. It was about proving he could choose his own path. He showered, changed into a clean shirt, and headed out, the locksmith's van pulling up just as he left. The night air hit his face, crisp and electric, as he walked to the coffee shop. Chicago's pulse matched his own, restless, alive, ready for a fight. At the wormhole, Mia was already there, leaning against a table with a latte, her camera bag slung over the chair. Jake, right? She said, her voice warm but direct. He nodded, sitting across from her. So, what's the story? She asked, cutting through small talk. Jake didn't sugarcoat it. My wife just left for a weekend with another guy. Thinks she can come back like nothing happened. Mia's eyebrows shot up, but she didn't flinch. And you're here, not chasing her. Respect. She leaned forward, her eyes locking on his. What's your next move? Jake hadn't thought that far, but her question sharpened his focus. She's out of the house by tomorrow. Locks changed, her stuff gone. I'm done waiting. Mia grinned, raising her cup. To taking control. They clinked mugs, and for the first time that night, Jake felt a flicker of power. Mia wasn't a rebound. She was a reminder that he could still choose who to be. As they talked, swapping stories about Chicago's art scene and his volunteer work, the weight of Emma's betrayal didn't vanish, but shrank. The night wasn't about her anymore. It was about him. By the time Jake got home, the locksmith was finishing up. New keys gleamed in his hand, a small but tangible victory. He thanked the man, locked the door, and stood in the empty loft. Emma's absence was everywhere, but so was his resolve. Tomorrow, the movers would erase her presence completely. Sunday, when she returned, she'd face a reality she hadn't anticipated. Jake wasn't the man she'd left a few hours ago. He was something new, someone who wouldn't be played. Jake woke at dawn, the loft silent except for the hum of Chicago's early traffic. Sleep had been fleeting, Emma's cold declaration, just a weekend, carving through his thoughts like a blade. But today wasn't for dwelling. It was for action. He brewed coffee, the sharp aroma grounding him, and checked his phone. A text from the moving company confirmed they'd arrive at 10 a.m. to clear out Emma's belongings. Another from Mia popped up. You good? Let's grab lunch if you're free. Jake typed back, noon, Logan Square. I'm good. He wasn't entirely sure he meant it, but the words felt like armor. By 9 a.m., he was sorting through the loft, marking what was Emma's. Her sketch pads, vinyl records, even a coffee mug she'd bought on their honeymoon. Everything went into boxes. He moved with purpose, each item packed a step toward reclaiming his space. The movers arrived on time, a crew of 3 hauling crates with practiced efficiency. Where to? The lead guy asked, clipboard in hand. Storage facility on Ashland, Jake replied, handing over the address. I don't care where it goes after that. The man nodded, no questions asked. By 11, the loft was stripped of Emma's trace, the emptiness both jarring and liberating. Jake met Mia at a taco joint in Logan Square, the place buzzing with weekend crowds. She was already there, scrolling through her phone, her camera bag slung over the chair. You look like you've been at war, she said, sliding a menu across the table. Jake managed a half smile. Feels like it. He told her about the movers, the locks, the plan to shut Emma out. Mia listened, her gaze steady. You're not messing around, she said, popping a chip into her mouth. Most guys would have begged her to stay. Jake shook his head. Not me. Not anymore. Her nod was approval, not pity, and it fueled his resolve. Mid-lunch, his phone buzzed. A text from Emma. Having fun. See you tomorrow. No apology, no hesitation. Just smug certainty she'd return her old life. Jake's jaw tightened. He showed Mia the message. She raised an eyebrow. She thinks you're waiting like a lost puppy. Jake pocketed the phone. She's in for a surprise. Mia leaned in, her voice low. What's next? You've got the upper hand. Use it. Her words sparked an idea. He needed more than a clean break. He needed Emma to face the weight of her choice. After lunch, Jake drove to his office, a glass-walled space downtown where he designed community centers and boutique hotels. He wasn't there to work. Instead, he pulled up Emma's social media, something he'd avoided for months. Her recent posts were cryptic, artsy photos, vague captions about freedom. Then he saw it, a tag location from last night, a bar in Lincoln Park. A quick search revealed a photo posted by a stranger, Emma in the background, laughing with a tall guy in a leather jacket. Jake's pulse quickened. This wasn't a spontaneous fling. It felt calculated, deliberate. He called a friend, Tom, a tech-savvy guy from the youth center where Jake volunteered. "Can you dig into someone's phone activity?" Jake asked, keeping it vague. Tom didn't pry. "If they're sloppy, yeah. Got a number?" Jake gave him Emma's. Within an hour, Tom texted back. "She's been texting some dude named Ryan for weeks. Heavy stuff, meetups, plans. Want the logs?" Jake's stomach churned. "Send them," he replied. The files arrived, a digital trail of Emma's secret life. Late-night calls, flirty messages, plans for this weekend. Each line was a fresh cut, but it also sharpened his focus. This wasn't just a betrayal. It was a double life. Jake forwarded the logs to his lawyer, Sarah, a no-nonsense woman he'd hired that morning. "This enough for a clean divorce?" he texted. Her reply was instant. "More than enough. I'll draft the papers tomorrow." Jake exhaled, the pieces falling into place. But he wasn't done. He needed to know who Ryan was. Back at the loft, he searched the name on social media, cross-referencing Emma's contacts. A profile popped up. Ryan Carter, a music producer, all slick smiles and studio shots. Jake's got twisted, but he stayed calm. He sent Ryan a message. "We need to talk about Emma. Call me." No response yet, but Jake knew he'd struck a nerve. That evening, Mia invited him to a gallery opening in Pilsen, a favor for a friend showcasing street photography. Jake agreed, needing the distraction. The gallery was packed, walls lined with gritty urban shots. Mia introduced him to artists, her energy pulling him out of his head. "You're handling this like a pro," she whispered, nudging him toward a photo of a shattered window. "Looks like how you're breaking free." Jake chuckled, the first real laugh in days. But his phone vibrated, interrupting. An unknown number. He stepped outside, the cool night air hitting him as he answered. "Jake, it's Ryan." The voice was low, cautious. Jake gripped the phone. "What's your deal with my wife?" he asked, cutting to the chase. Ryan hesitated, then spilled. "Emma said you two were done. Been talking for months, planning this weekend. I didn't know she was playing you." Jake's blood ran hot, but he kept his cool. "She's not coming back to me. You want her? She's yours." Ryan paused. "I'm out. I don't do games." The call ended, leaving Jake stunned. Emma hadn't just betrayed him. She'd lied to both of them. Back inside, Mia caught his expression. "Trouble?" she asked. Jake shook his head. "Clarity." He filled her in, the words pouring out. Emma's web of lies was unraveling, and Jake was ready to pull the final thread. He texted Sarah again. "Add Ryan's confession to the file. I want this done fast." As he and Mia left the gallery, walking under Chicago's neon glow, Jake felt a shift. The hurt was still there, but it was fuel now, not a cage. Tomorrow, when Emma returned, she'd face a locked door and a husband who wasn't hers anymore. Sunday morning broke over Chicago, the skyline sharp against a gray sky. Jake stood in his loft, now stripped of Emma's presence, sipping black coffee as he checked his phone. A text from his lawyer, Sarah, confirmed the divorce papers were nearly ready, bolstered by Emma's texts and Ryan's confession. The movers had finished yesterday, leaving the space stark but oddly peaceful. Jake's plan was set. When Emma returned today, she'd find a locked door and a life she no longer owned. His phone buzzed again. Mia, checking in. "You ready for the showdown? Need backup?" Jake smirked, typing back. "I've got this. Drinks later?" Her reply was instant. "You're on." He paced the loft, rehearsing what he'd say. No yelling, no pleading, just cold, clear truth. Emma's betrayal wasn't a fleeting whim. It was months of calculated lies. Ryan's call last night had sealed it, exposing her double life. Jake's anger had hardened into resolve. He wasn't just closing a chapter. He was rewriting the book. At 2 p.m., the buzzer rang, sharp and insistent. Jake glanced at the security camera. Emma, standing with her duffel bag, her posture tense. He let the buzzer ring twice more, each sound a small victory, before pressing the intercom. "What?" he said, voice flat. "Jake, let me in." "My key's not working," Emma said, her tone edged with irritation, not remorse. Jake leaned into the speaker. "That's because it's not your home anymore." Silence stretched, then her voice cracked. "What are you talking about? Open the door." Jake stayed calm. "Your stuff's in storage. I know about Ryan, Emma. Months of lies. We're done." Her gasp was audible through the speaker. "You can't do this," she snapped, banging on the door. Jake didn't flinch. He opened it, standing firm in the doorway, blocking her path. Emma's eyes darted past him, landing on Mia, who sat cross-legged on the couch, scrolling her phone with casual ease. "Who's she?" Emma demanded, her voice spiking. Jake didn't blink. "Someone who doesn't lie to me." Mia glanced up, offering a small wave, her presence a quiet jab. Emma's face flushed, but she pressed forward, dropping her bag. "This is crazy, Jake. It was one weekend. We can fix this." Her words were desperate, but her eyes held a flicker of calculation, testing his limits. Jake shook his head. "It wasn't one weekend. Ryan told me everything. Months of planning, secret calls. You built a whole life behind my back." Emma froze, her bravado crumbling. "Ryan? You talked to him?" Her voice wavered, betraying her. Jake nodded, stepping closer, his tone ice cold. "He's done with you too. Said he doesn't play games. Guess you misjudged both of us." Emma's hands shook as she reached for her phone, as if a text could undo the moment. "I didn't mean for it to go this far," she stammered. "I was bored, Jake. Our life felt small. I needed more." Her admission hit like a slap, but Jake didn't waver. "You needed more? You had me. You chose to throw it away." He handed her a business card, Sarah's contact info. "My lawyer will send you the divorce papers. Your stuff's at the Ashland storage unit. Keys in the mail." Emma's eyes widened, panic setting in. "You can't just erase me," she shouted, stepping forward. Jake held his ground, the doorframe a barrier she couldn't cross. "You erased yourself," he said, his voice steady. "Go." Mia stood, moving to Jake's side, not touching him but close enough to signal solidarity. Emma's gaze flicked between them, her confidence shattered. She grabbed her bag, muttering, "This isn't over," and stormed down the hall. Jake closed the door, the click echoing like a gavel. Mia exhaled. "That was intense. You okay?" Jake nodded, though his pulse still raced. "Better than I thought." His phone lit up, a text from an unknown number. "It's Ryan. Emma just called me, freaking out. You did the right thing. I'm out for good." Jake deleted the message. No need for further proof. Emma's lies had collapsed under their own weight. He turned to Mia. "Feel like a walk? I need air." She grinned. "Lead the way." They headed to Millennium Park, the city alive with joggers and street musicians. Jake's steps felt lighter, the confrontation lifting a burden he hadn't named. Mia matched his pace, tossing out ideas for a photography project she was pitching. "You should join me," she said. "You've got an eye for structure." Jake considered it, the idea sparking something new. At the youth center, he taught kids to see the world differently. Maybe it was time he did the same. His phone buzzed again. Emma, a long text pleading for a meeting, claiming she'd changed. Jake didn't reply. He blocked her number, each tap a step toward freedom. That evening, over beers at a dive bar in Wicker Park, Jake and Mia dissected the day. "She thought you'd cave," Mia said, clinking her bottle against his. "You didn't just stand your ground. You redrew the map." Jake laughed, the sound foreign but welcome. He wasn't replacing Emma with Mia. He was rediscovering himself. Back at the loft, he pulled up his laptop, signing up for a photography workshop Mia had mentioned. The divorce papers were coming. Emma's life was her own mess now, and Jake was ready to build something new, not out of spite, but for himself. Monday morning, Jake woke to the buzz of his phone. A text from his lawyer, "Sarah, read, papers ready. Need you to review today." He replied instantly, setting a meeting for noon. The confrontation with Emma yesterday had left him drained but resolute. Her pleading texts kept coming from new numbers, each one a weak attempt to claw back control. Jake blocked them without reading, his focus now on closing this chapter legally. He grabbed his keys and headed to Sarah's office downtown. The Chicago Loop's morning rush a blur of suits and coffee cups. Sarah's office was a small, no-frill space on LaSalle Street. She slid a folder across her desk, her expression all business. "You've got a strong case," she said, tapping the papers. Emma's texts, Ryan's confession, even her own emails admitting fault. It's airtight. Jake skimmed the documents, each line a step toward freedom. "How fast can we wrap this up?" he asked. Sarah leaned back. "With her history, we can push for a quick settlement. Sign here, and I'll file tomorrow." Jake signed, his hand steady, the weight of 5 years lifting with each stroke. Back at the loft, he found a voicemail from the storage facility. Emma had tried to access her belongings but lacked the new key, which Jake had mailed to her office. Her frustration didn't faze him. She'd built this mess. His phone pinged again, this time Mia, photography workshop tonight. You in? Jake typed back, count me in. The idea of learning something new, untamed by Emma's shadow, sparked a quiet excitement. He spent the afternoon at the youth center, mentoring kids on a mural project. Their laughter, the bold strokes of paint, grounded him in a way the loft no longer could. Evening came, and Jake met Mia at a community art space in Pilsen. The workshop was packed with aspiring photographers, their cameras clicking under fluorescent lights. Mia led him to a table, her energy infectious. Try street photography, she urged, handing him a spare Nikon. Capture what moves you. Jake wandered outside, snapping shots of Chicago's pulse. Vendors packing up, a saxophonist on a corner, a couple arguing by streetlight. Each frame felt like a reclaiming of his vision, his life. Mia joined him, critiquing his shots with a sharp eye. You're a natural, she said, nudging his shoulder. Keep going. Later, over late-night tacos at a nearby food truck, Mia asked about Emma. She's still texting, Jake admitted, showing her the latest blocked number. Mia shook her head. She's grasping at straws. You're already miles ahead. Her words rang true. Jake wasn't just moving on. He was building something. He'd signed up for a hiking trip to Starved Rock next weekend, reconnected with old college friends, and even pitched a new community center design at work. Emma's betrayal had cracked him open, but what spilled out was possibility. The next day, Jake's phone rang, an unknown number. He hesitated, then answered. It was Emma's co-worker, Lisa, her voice tense. Emma's been a wreck at work, she said. She's saying you locked her out, took her stuff. She's talking about fighting the divorce. Jake's jaw tightened, but he kept his cool. Tell her to talk to my lawyer, he said, giving Sarah's number. I'm done discussing it. Lisa sighed. I figured. Just thought you should know she's not letting go. Jake hung up, unfazed. Emma's threats were noise, not substance. That afternoon, he met with Tom, his tech-savvy friend from the youth center, at a coffee shop in Andersonville. Tom had dug deeper into Emma's digital trail at Jake's request. Found more, Tom said, sliding a USB drive across the table. Emails between her and Ryan, going back 6 months. She was planning to leave you before this weekend thing. Jake took the drive, his anger flaring but quickly cooling. Thanks, he said. This seals it. He forwarded the files to Sarah, each email another nail in Emma's case. Her lies weren't just personal. They were a calculated unraveling of their vows. By evening, Jake was back at the loft, sketching ideas for a new project, a pro bono design for the youth center. His phone buzzed with a text from an unfamiliar number. Emma again, this time with a photo of their old wedding album, captioned, "We can still fix this." Jake deleted it, his resolve ironclad. He called Mia instead. Feel like a hike this weekend? He asked. Starved Rock. Clear my head. She agreed, her voice bright. You're on a roll, Jake. Keep it up. The week unfolded with purpose. Jake met with Sarah again, who confirmed the divorce filing was on track. Emma had reached out to her, offering therapy or mediation, but Jake shut it down. No deals, he told Sarah. I want this done. He joined the hiking group, spending Saturday trekking through Starved Rock's canyons, the rugged trails mirroring his own path, tough but navigable. Mia tagged along, snapping photos of the cliffs, her banter keeping things light. You're not the guy I met a week ago, she said, tossing a pebble into a stream. Jake nodded. Good. Back in Chicago, a final email from Emma arrived, sent from her work address. She admitted to months of planning with Ryan, claiming she'd lost herself in their routine. She begged for a meeting, one last chance to explain. Jake forwarded it to Sarah without replying. Emma's words were a last-ditch grab for control, but Jake was beyond her reach. He wasn't angry anymore, just free. As he locked the loft door that night, he felt the city's pulse sync with his own. Emma's shadow was fading, and Jake was ready for whatever came next. Jake stood in the youth center's courtyard, watching kids add final touches to the mural he'd helped design, a vibrant collage of Chicago's skyline. It was late August, the air warm with a last breath of summer. His phone buzzed with a notification from Sarah, his lawyer, divorce finalized. Papers delivered to Emma. Jake exhaled, the news landing like a quiet victory. Months of legal back and forth, fueled by Emma's initial resistance, had ended. He tucked the phone away, focusing on a kid who handed him a paintbrush. Your turn, Jake, the boy said, grinning. Jake added a bold blue stroke, his hand steady, his mind clear. The past weeks had been a whirlwind of action. Emma's attempts to stall the divorce, pleas for mediation, tearful voicemails, had fizzled against the evidence Jake provided. Her texts, Ryan's confession, her own emails admitting fault. Sarah had pushed the case through, and Emma, cornered by the truth, signed the papers last week. Jake didn't gloat. He simply moved forward. He'd blocked her latest number after a final message begging for a coffee shop meeting. No response needed. His silence was his answer. He spent mornings at his architecture firm, pitching a new project for a community library in Englewood. His boss praised the design's bold lines. Unaware it was born from Jake's need to rebuild. Afternoons were for the youth center, where he'd started teaching a weekly art class, showing kids how to channel their energy into sketches and murals. The work grounded him, each lesson a reminder that he could shape lives, including his own. Mia had joined one session, her camera capturing the kids' focus. "You're good at this," she'd said, her tone matter-of-fact. "It's not just about art, is it?" Jake nodded. It was about purpose. One evening, while sorting through old files at the loft, Jake found a letter slipped under the door. Emma's handwriting, no stamp. He hesitated, then opened it. She wrote that she'd moved to Denver, started therapy, and was grappling with her choices. "I broke us," she admitted. No plea for forgiveness, just raw honesty. "I hope you're happy." Jake set the letter down, feeling neither anger nor relief, just closure. He shredded it, the sound final, and tossed the scraps. Her words couldn't touch him anymore. He met Mia for a drink at a jazz bar in Logan Square, the saxophone notes weaving through the crowd. She'd landed a gig shooting for a local magazine, her excitement contagious. "What about you?" she asked, sipping a gin and tonic. "What's next?" Jake leaned back, considering. He'd signed up for a solo trip to the Upper Peninsula, craving the quiet of its forests. He'd also submitted a short story to a local literary contest, inspired by his nights at the photography workshop. "I'm figuring it out," he said, one step at a time. Mia raised her glass. "To steps." The next day, a call came from Tom, his tech friend. "Heard through the grapevine. Emma's telling people she messed up big," Tom said. "Says she's starting over in Denver. No more games." Jake thanked him, but didn't linger on it. Emma's life was her own now, untangled from his. He hung up and headed to a new cafe in Bucktown, where he'd started meeting a hiking group. They planned a fall trek through Wisconsin's Ice Age Trail, and Jake volunteered to map the route, his architect's eye for detail kicking in. The group's camaraderie, their shared laughter over trail mishaps, felt like a fresh start. A week later, Jake's story won third place in the contest, earning a spot in a Chicago anthology. He read the email while riding the L train, a quiet pride settling in. At the youth center, he shared the news with the kids, who cheered and demanded he read it aloud. The story, about a man rebuilding after loss, wasn't about Emma. It was about Jake's own journey. One kid, a shy girl named Lila, sketched him a card. "You're the coolest, Jake." He pinned it to his fridge, a small anchor in his new life. Mia invited him to a rooftop party in West Loop, hosted by her magazine colleagues. The city sparkled below, its lights a map of possibilities. They danced to a playlist of old soul tracks, her laughter cutting through the noise. "You're different," she said, catching her breath. "Lighter." Jake nodded. He wasn't tied to Mia romantically. She was a friend, a spark, not a replacement. But her presence reminded him he could connect without fear. He told her about the Upper Peninsula trip, the hiking group, the anthology. "I'm not running from anything anymore," he said. She clinked her beer against his. "You're running towards something." Days later, a package arrived at the loft, a copy of the anthology with Jake's story. He flipped to his page, the words a mirror of his growth. He donated a copy to the youth center, where the kids passed it around, awed to see his name in print. That night, alone in the loft, Jake booked his Michigan trip, choosing a cabin by Lake Superior. He'd hike, write, and sketch, letting the solitude shape his next steps. His phone stayed quiet. No more messages from Emma. No more echoes of her betrayal. As he packed for the trip, a call came from a friend in the hiking group. "Heard Emma's engaged in Denver," he said, curious for Jake's reaction. Jake shrugged, the news sliding off him. "Good for her," he said, meaning it. Her choices no longer defined him. He hung up, zipped his backpack, and stepped into the Chicago night, the city's energy pulsing through him. Emma's betrayal had been a storm, but Jake had rebuilt stronger. His life was his own now, each choice a brick in a foundation no one could shake.